Hello, and welcome to this Microsoft Dynamics Marketing Connector for Microsoft Dynamics CRM module. Throughout this module, I will cover a high-level overview of the primary learning objectives, the connector's underlying architecture, the prerequisites that must be in place for the connector to function, the installation and configuration steps required for a Microsoft Dynamics CRM online organization, and the installation and configuration steps required for a Microsoft Dynamics CRM on-premises organization. Let's briefly cover the module's learning objectives. We'll begin with the connector architecture, where we'll discuss the components that work together to handle the synchronization of records between Microsoft Dynamics Marketing and Microsoft Dynamics CRM. From there, we'll move on to the prerequisites that must be in place before beginning the connector installation and configuration. We'll then move on to a walkthrough for setting up the connector between Microsoft Dynamics Marketing and a Microsoft Dynamics CRM online organization, before concluding with a separate walkthrough for setting up the connector with a Microsoft Dynamics CRM on-premises organization. Let's take a closer look at the connector's underlying architecture. 6 separate components work together in order to facilitate the successful synchronization of records between Microsoft Dynamics Marketing and Microsoft Dynamics CRM. These include a listener and publisher component for Microsoft Dynamics Marketing, a listener and publisher component for Microsoft Dynamics CRM, a set of service bus queues that reside in Microsoft Azure, and the service bus plugin that monitors for any related create, update, or delete requests in Microsoft Dynamics CRM. When the connector is configured with a Microsoft Dynamics CRM Online organization, the CRM listener and CRM publisher roles that are part of the data integration service are maintained within the Microsoft Dynamics Marketing Data Center. However, when the connector is configured with a Microsoft Dynamics CRM on-premises organization, the CRM listener and CRM publisher roles are instead maintained on the customer's CRM server where the data integration service is installed. As its name suggests, the MDM publisher role monitors for changes to any supported record types within the Microsoft Dynamics Marketing instance, packages the instructions into a brokered message, and sends it to the MDM to CRM queue in Microsoft Azure for CRM to retrieve. To handle incoming messages, the MDM listener role monitors the CRM to MDM queue in Microsoft Azure for new messages, and if any are found, the messages are retrieved and the respective updates are made in Microsoft Dynamics Marketing. Likewise, the CRM Publisher role monitors the system jobs that are triggered by the Service Bus plugin within Microsoft Dynamics CRM and sends any related messages to the CRM to MDM queue for Dynamics Marketing to retrieve. As with the previous listener role, the CRM listener role monitors the MDM to CRM queue in Microsoft Azure, and if any new messages are discovered, they are retrieved and the respective updates are made in Microsoft Dynamics CRM. There are 10 entities that are supported for synchronization between Microsoft Dynamics Marketing and Microsoft Dynamics CRM in either one direction or both directions. Marketing companies integrate with CRM accounts in both directions. Marketing contacts integrate with CRM contacts in both directions. Marketing lists integrate both ways, however, dynamic queries do not synchronize from Dynamics Marketing to CRM, and dynamic lists will synchronize from CRM to Dynamics Marketing as static lists. Marketing leads that reach a sales ready grade in Dynamics Marketing integrate to CRM, and updates to those same records in CRM will flow back to Dynamics Marketing, but new leads created in CRM will not integrate to Dynamics Marketing. Opportunities integrate from CRM to Dynamics Marketing only. Campaigns created in either application will integrate both ways. Email marketing messages created in Dynamics Marketing will integrate to CRM as their own campaign of type email. Online visitor information in Dynamics Marketing will integrate to the custom web behavioral data entity that the solution creates in CRM. Notes created in either application will integrate both ways. And tasks will integrate in both directions as tasks in Dynamics Marketing and task activities in CRM. The service endpoint that is provisioned in Microsoft Dynamics CRM as part of the connector configuration contains 25 SDK message processing steps that are executed by the Service Bus plugin as system jobs. I want to quickly call out that for marketing lists to integrate from CRM to Dynamics Marketing, the custom Sync Enabled field must be added to the marketing list form and set to a value of yes before the record will synchronize. Please also note that the Web Behavioral Data entity is added to CRM as part of the connector solution import, and it wasn't until the Dynamics Marketing 2015 release that tasks and campaigns began synchronizing in both directions. Let's move on to the prerequisites that must be in place before the connector can be installed and configured. When setting up the connector between Microsoft Dynamics Marketing and a Microsoft Dynamics CRM Online organization, the implementer must have access to a licensed Dynamics Marketing user account that has the administrator checkbox enabled, access to a licensed Dynamics CRM user that has been given the system administrator security role, access to the Office 365 tenant where the Dynamics CRM instance resides with sufficient enough rights to create a new service account user and assign a CRM license to it. If an existing service account will be used, then this prerequisite may not apply. With the release of the version 18 update, Microsoft will manage the Service Bus namespace and associated queues in Microsoft Azure for each organization. However, if the organization prefers to maintain these components themselves, then a Microsoft Azure subscription is required. When setting up the connector between Microsoft Dynamics Marketing and a Microsoft Dynamics CRM on-premises organization, the implementer must have access to a licensed Dynamics Marketing user account that has the administrator checkbox enabled, access to a licensed Dynamics CRM user that has been given the system administrator security role, access to Active Directory within the domain where Dynamics CRM is installed, or a trusted domain that CRM can query for users, access to a Microsoft Azure subscription where the Service Bus namespace and queues can be managed, local administrative access to the CRM server that maintains the asynchronous processing service, or at least one of the async servers if multiple servers are set up, outbound internet access to ports 80 and 443, as well as port 9354 to meet Microsoft Azure requirements for brokered messaging on the CRM server where the async and data integration services will reside, a valid certificate with a private key, either created internally or purchased from a trusted certificate issuing authority, to be used as the Microsoft Azure Service Bus Issuer Certificate, and finally, Microsoft.NET Framework version 4.5.1 must be installed on the CRM server where the data integration service will be provisioned. We're now ready to set up the connector with the Dynamics CRM Online organization. With the release of the version 18 update, Microsoft Managed Queues are now available to be used when setting up the connector. However, if a customer chooses to manage the Service Bus namespace and queues themselves, they must install the Azure Pack for PowerShell in order to create an ACS-based Service Bus namespace, as SAS-based namespaces are not currently supported. To create an ACS-based Service Bus namespace, the new Azure SB namespace commandlet must be used with the proper parameters as seen in this slide. Once created, the default key value should be noted as it's going to be needed further into the configuration. A service account is required in Dynamics CRM to manage the create, update, and delete requests that are passed through the connector. This user must be created in the Office 365 tenant where the Dynamics CRM instance resides, and a license must be allocated to it in order to make it available within CRM. An existing service account can be used if desired, but it is recommended to use a unique account to ensure that other implementation changes do not affect the connector. The Dynamics Marketing Connector Security Role, Service Bus Plugin, SDK Message Processing Steps, Custom Fields, and other customizations are contained within a managed solution that must be installed within the CRM organization. This solution can be downloaded from the Microsoft Download Center and imported into the destination CRM organization from the Solutions page under Settings. 2 versions of the solution are available to support customers who are using a CRM 2011 or 2013 environment, as well as customers using a CRM 2015 environment. New versions of the solution are occasionally released when updates are deployed to Microsoft Dynamics Marketing, and the latest version of the solution is required to ensure a working configuration. Once the service account has been created in Office 365 and assigned a CRM license, it will be made available within CRM. With the solution now imported, the user record should be open within the Security or Administration area under Settings, depending on which CRM version is being used. Once the user record is opened, the Dynamics Marketing Connector security role should be given to the user, and the access mode at the bottom of the user page can be changed to non-interactive. Non-interactive users do not require a CRM license, so the license can now be removed from the account in Office 365 if desired. With the service account setup complete, the implementer must now log into Microsoft Dynamics Marketing with an administrative user and navigate to the Integration Options page under Settings. The CRM endpoint section must be set to a CRM mode of Online to match the CRM environment that will be synchronized with, and the gear icon within the CRM endpoint section should be clicked to open a new configuration window. This window should be populated with the Dynamics CRM Online URL and the service account credentials, after which they can be verified before submitting the entries. Following the CRM endpoint configuration, the gear icon in the Service Bus section should be clicked to open a second set of configuration windows. If it is preferred to have Microsoft manage the Service Bus namespace and queues in Azure, then the default setting of Managed Queues can be saved and no further configuration is necessary in this section. If the implementer prefers to handle the management themselves, then the Custom Queues option must be chosen, and the namespace, queues, default key, certificate issuer name, certificate thumbprint, and the credentials for a CRM user with either the System Administrator or System Customizer security role must be provided. The issuer name and certificate can be obtained within the Developer Resources section under Settings and Customizations in CRM. By default, all entities that support synchronization through the connector are enabled, and a specific set of out-of-the-box fields as well as the custom fields added by the solution are included within the mapping configuration. If an entity should be disabled from synchronization or other custom fields need to be added for synchronization, the mapping configuration should be edited by clicking the pencil icon in the mapping section of the Integration Options page. This slide shows an annotated screenshot from the mapping configuration area along with a description of each annotation. More information regarding the mapping configuration options can be found in the Word document available with this module. When the previous configuration steps are complete, a health check can be performed to ensure that messages can be sent from Dynamics Marketing to Dynamics CRM and back again. While optional, a health check is recommended to validate the configuration before moving on to an initial synchronization. When the initial synchronization is initiated, all current records that are supported for synchronization and enabled will be mirrored between Dynamics Marketing and Dynamics CRM. The result field will periodically refresh with the total number of records that have been synchronized during the initial synchronization until the status changes to complete. At that point, the installation and configuration process is complete and the connector is fully functional. Alright, so now I want to go through and actually set up a connector with a Microsoft Dynamics CRM online environment. And I'm going to do so under the assumption that I want to use custom queues in Microsoft Azure so that I can show that process as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I do have my PowerShell window open here. You do have to have the Azure pack for PowerShell in order to run the necessary commandlet. And once you run the add-azure account commandlet in order to provision your subscription within the PowerShell command window here, you run this new-azure SB namespace commandlet. And I'm basically passing in some parameters that I define here. The first two is the name, which I'm going to give it a Microsoft Readiness name, and then a location that matches your location in the country. There's a number of different options that you can choose in Azure for this, but mine's going to be Central US. We always want to have a namespace type of messaging, and then the create ACS namespace value of 1. So I'll go ahead and hit enter on that. And this is going to basically go out to Azure, create the Service Bus namespace with these parameters, and then it'll return me with some values that I'm going to need here, in particular the default key value that we will use when setting up the connector. All right, so there is my Service Bus namespace, and I just want to go ahead and grab this default key value. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to paste this into Notepad. There we go, just so I have that for reference later. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to jump to, so in here I have my CRM environment, and here I have my Dynamics marketing environment. And what I'll do is I'm going to jump over here to the portal, and I want to create my service account that's going to be used for the connector. So I'll open up users here, and I'll go into active users. And you can see here that I only have my initial Jonathan Hudgens account. I'll go ahead and create a new one. And for the sake of knowing exactly what this account is being used for now and in the future, I'm going to give it a relevant name, MDM CRM connector. And I'll leave the display name as that, and the name will match that as well. And I'll give it a password of my choosing. And sure. And the CRM Online Professional license will automatically be assigned to this user since there's no other applications on this particular Office 365 tenant. All right, so now that my connector service account is created within the Office 365 portal, I'll jump back over here to CRM. And what I'll do is I'll click on my settings area. And since this is a Dynamics CRM 2015 environment, I will go under settings and then under security here to access my users. And I'll go in and I'll click on my users here. And you'll see now that I do have this MDM CRM connector user that has come across from Office 365. But before I do anything with this user, I first need to install the connector solution. So I'll go under settings here and under solutions. And this is downloadable from the Microsoft Download Center. This is a package that we provide on a regular basis, depending on whether or not any updates have been made in that particular version of Microsoft Dynamics Marketing. But basically, once you download that from the Download Center, you'll extract it on your workstation, and there will be a couple of solution files that you can choose from, either if you have CRM 2011 or CRM 2013, then there will be one solution for those two versions, and then a separate solution for CRM 2015. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to import a solution, and I've already downloaded and installed. And I'll browse out here to my C drive under Program Files x86 Microsoft Dynamics Marketing. This is the default folder where our solutions are installed. And then I'll go under this Solutions folder here under CRM Connector. And you'll see here that I have the two solutions that I can choose from. Since I am installing this in a CRM 2015 environment, I'll go ahead and choose this bottom one. And I'll click Next and Import. And once this solution package is imported, basically that's going to bring in all of the customizations into my CRM environment that are required for the connector to synchronize records and to provide that custom entity for web behavioral data, as well as the custom security role that I'll be assigning to my user here. Once this is complete, I also need to download my certificate from Dynamics CRM Online here. And there will be some warnings at the very end in regard to currency. Nothing to be concerned about there. That is perfectly normal. All right, I'll go ahead and close that. You can see here that I have my solution now installed. I can expand these columns so we can see the full name there, Microsoft Dynamics Marketing for Microsoft Dynamics CRM. And this is the version number here. So if in the event that there is an update of any kind, the version can be compared within the CRM environment to make sure that it does meet the requirements for any future updates. or if a new version of the solution is required to be imported. So now that I have that in place, I will also, as I mentioned earlier, jump over to my settings and then customizations area, and I will go into developer resources. And you'll see here that I have a Windows Azure Service Bus Issuer Certificate by default in Dynamics CRM Online with an issuer name of crm.dynamics.com. This is the issuer name for North America. This will change in other regions of the world, but for me this is going to be crm.dynamics.com. And then I also want to download my certificate here, so I have this available to me. So I'll go ahead and save that. Okay, and then once I have my certificate downloaded, I also want to go back to my user. So again, that's under settings and then under security. And I'll go into users and into my MDM CRM connector user. Okay, and what I can do here is I'll click on manage roles. And now I have the option to select this Dynamics Marketing Connector security role with the solution installed. So I'll go ahead and hit that and I'll click OK. That is the only security role that we need for the service account. And then if I scroll down a little bit further here, you'll see that there's an administration section at the bottom. I'm going to click on that as well. And I have the option to change my access mode. By default, this goes to read-write for licensed users, but I'm going to switch this to non-interactive. And this is a unique option in Dynamics CRM Online in that non-interactive user accounts do not require a license, since they would only be affecting the instance at an SDK web layer level. So essentially what that does is it allows us to free up a license, and we have a total of 5 of those non-interactive accounts that can be used within any given Dynamics CRM Online organization. So once that's set to non-interactive, I'll click Save. Okay, so now that I have the user account set properly, I can jump back to my portal. I can click on my service account here. I can edit my license, and I can simply uncheck this Microsoft Dynamics CRM Online Professional license and click Save. All right, so now this service account does not consume a license, but it is still enabled in Dynamics CRM as a non-interactive user that we can use to field all of the connector requirements. All right, so now with everything set up in terms of the user and the solution file, I'm going to jump back to my Dynamics Marketing instance. And I'm logged in with an administrative user here. So I will go to the settings area and then into integration options. And in here you can see that the data integration service is actually running and ready to be configured. If in the event that you ever see a message here other than running, or a connector solution verification is being ran or something, you may want to just wait for that to run its course, or you may even need to stop and restart the connector services by clicking the button here. Basically, if I click on Disable CRM Connector Services and hit OK, it's just simply going to shut everything off. The actual data center service is still running, but in terms of all of the roles and everything that are going to be required for synchronization, all of those are turned off. And then I can just go ahead and click on this right arrow here to re-enable them. So if there's ever a point where anything is put up in here into this status field that you're not sure if it's a problem, or if there's any sort of indication that there might be a service that's not running, I would recommend always clicking on this to disable the connector services and then re-enabling them to see if that resolves the issue. But I also want to make sure, since I am installing this with a Dynamics CRM Online instance, I want to make sure that my CRM mode is set to online, which it is by default. If I did want to set this up with a Dynamics CRM on-premises organization, I could go ahead and click on this icon here to switch that. And basically that just makes a change in the data center within the configuration XML file to point it to an on-premise environment versus a CRM Online environment. So what I'll do here is I'll click on the gear icon to bring up my configuration window for the CRM endpoint. And I will go ahead and put in my CRM URL here, as well as my service account. And I can click on verify here just to make sure that it's able to authenticate successfully to the CRM environment, and it looks like it did. So I'll click on submit here. Okay, and then I'll go into my service bus configuration here. And you'll see here that I can choose manage queues. That is a very nice feature that allows us to leverage the connector without actually requiring a Microsoft Azure subscription. So on the back end, basically the service bus namespace and the queues would be handled by Microsoft. But in this scenario, I want to go ahead and click on custom queues since I did provision a namespace for this. So I will go ahead and key in my namespace from Microsoft Azure here. And I believe I called it Microsoft Readiness like that. And my queue from Dynamics CRM. So this is going to be the queue that's going to handle messages from CRM over to Dynamics Marketing. So the default name that we would normally give that would be CRM to MDM, just so that we can easily identify which queue is which. I'm going to go ahead and use that same name here. And then for the other way, the queue coming from Dynamics Marketing, so messages that are being sent and packaged up from Dynamics Marketing and sent to CRM will be MDM to CRM. And I'll click next here, and this is going to open up our second configuration window. And here we need to put in the management key, which is the default key that we were given when we created our service bus namespace. So I'll go ahead and grab that string and I'll paste that in here. And then I need to put in my certificate issuer name, and if you recall from our developer resources page, it was crm.dynamics.com. And then I'll click on my up arrow here to point to my configuration or certificate file that I had downloaded earlier. And the thumbprint from the certificate does get populated into the field here. And now I just need to supply a CRM account with the system administrator security role in order to provision the service endpoint, the SDK message processing steps, everything that we need to handle the synchronization of records from a CRM and service bus standpoint. We're going to go ahead and create the queues in the service bus, everything like that. So I'll go ahead and put in my administrative account here for CRM. And I'll hit OK. And once complete, we should now be brought back to the integration options page. You'll see that our MDM listener, MDM publisher, and CRM listener service roles are all running, which is a great sign. We also can see all of our configuration data that we entered for the most part here under CRM endpoint and service bus. And then we can see in the administration section there that the CRM connector version check is in progress. So right now, Dynamics Marketing is basically sending out a message to CRMs asking for the version of the solution that's installed. And that message comes back through Azure again saying, you know, here is the version number I'm using, 1.17.x. And Microsoft Dynamics Marketing knows that it needs to have a certain version for a synchronization to be successful. So in the event that we didn't have the proper version, we had an older version installed in CRM, this would come back with a failure of some kind, and we would have to correct that before the connector would work. But if all goes well here, I should be able to refresh this. And after it refreshes, this is what I should see here. I should just see a status of running. Okay, so at this point, I am ready to go ahead and kick off a health check. And to do so, I can just click on the right arrow under health check. So I'll go ahead and click that now. And you'll see that the status will change to in progress. So essentially what this is doing is it's just sending out a message to make sure that it can round robin throughout all of the components. So it's going to go up to Azure, it's going to go down to Dynamics CRM, and then that message will be returned again through the other queue from CRM to MDM and to Dynamics Marketing. And once that is complete, our status should turn to complete, and there won't actually be a log to download for the health check. The health check only generates a log if there's a problem. So the having no logs is actually a good sign. But I'll go ahead and refresh this page again. And there you can see our health check is complete. So I'll go ahead and kick off our initial synchronization. And the status will change to in progress for the initial synchronization. The result will default to 0 at the start. But basically, this is going to mirror all of the records between Dynamics CRM and Dynamics Marketing, so that both instances essentially have the exact same records, and it's going to assign unique identifiers to them to ensure that there are no duplicates or anything going forward. So in the event that you have a lot of records in one environment or the other, the initial synchronization can actually take quite some time. So I would recommend that this be performed only during non-business hours in that scenario. But if there is a smaller number of records, say 1,000 or something between the two applications, you can certainly kick off an initial synchronization whenever that becomes applicable to you. I also want to point out that in the event that we did have to change any mappings in terms of the entities that we want to actually have synchronized, or if we had custom fields in Dynamics CRM that we wanted to add to the synchronization process, we could have done so under this mapping area. So if I click on the pencil icon here to edit them, basically that's going to give me a list of all of the available entities and then all of the available fields underneath them. And the available fields by default are going to be all of our sort of out-of-the-box fields, as well as the custom fields that our connector solution had installed in Dynamics CRM. I will go ahead and refresh this one more time. And after I refresh the page here, I'll scroll down and you can see that my initial synchronization is now complete, and the result is 166 records that have synchronized between the two products. And that's going to include all of the entities that are enabled, as well as some configuration data and currency records that will be transferred as well. So again, I can change my mappings now if I'd like as well, or prior to the initial sync, whichever I prefer. If there are any particular fields that you specifically do not want to have synchronized, then I would definitely recommend editing those mappings before performing the initial sync, so that you can make sure that those particular fields or those particular entities do not get synchronized. But in the event that you add any custom fields later on for any of these supported entities, you can then go into the mapping editor here, and you can make those adjustments as needed. So I'll quickly jump in here just so I can show you the interface. And if we go to, say, for example, contact, what we can do here is we can look at all of the fields that are currently mapped. Telephone 1 in Dynamics CRM is being mapped to primary phone in Dynamics Marketing. If I click on my plus sign here, I can add new field mappings. So if I had a custom UDF in Dynamics Marketing, I can map that to a custom field in CRM. There are a couple of other fields up here, for example, threshold field. This is a field that basically allows you to set a specific field to monitor for in order to trigger the sync. And this is most pronounced for the lead management entity, because leads only synchronize from Dynamics Marketing to Dynamics CRM, and they have to reach that sales ready threshold in order to be synchronized across. So when sales ready grade on that lead becomes a value of 1, then that will trigger the synchronization over to CRM. I also want to point out towards the bottom here, list entity. This is the only setting within the mapping area that really doesn't apply to fields, but basically what this does is it sets the frequency in which we synchronize marketing lists. So if you have a particular configuration where you want to have marketing lists syncing relatively quick, you can see here by default we sync them every 10 minutes, but you may want to bump that up a little bit, particularly for small marketing lists. But if you have large marketing lists, lists that are maybe tens of thousands of contacts across, then you may want to set that to a sync interval higher than 10 minutes just to allot for more time to allow for those records to synchronize completely before another sync is essentially kicked off. So some options there in the mapping area. But once those mapping changes are made, it will automatically flow over to CRM, and they will essentially mimic one another on those the mapping configuration. In the event that there's any sort of an issue with the connector, you have the ability to download logs. You have the ability to download connector logs on the left side here. SDK logs are on the right, but for the connector in particular, it's this left side download. So any issues with the connector, this is the first place to look. Otherwise, you can certainly check your configuration anytime, make changes to this as needed. You can also click on this trash can at the top to clear all your integration settings and basically start setting up the connector from scratch as needed. And that is the successful configuration of the connector in a Dynamics CRM Online environment. Let's now go through setting up the connector with the Dynamics CRM on-premises organization. When setting up the connector with a Dynamics CRM on-premises organization, a certificate must be identified for use as the Microsoft Azure Service Bus Issuer Certificate. This certificate can either be requested internally from a server that has the Certification Authority role service installed, or by purchasing a domain-level validation certificate through a trusted certificate issuing authority. Please refer to the Word document included with this module for more information on how to request or obtain a certificate. With the release of the version 18 update, Microsoft Managed Queues are selectable when setting up the connector with the Dynamics CRM Online organization. However, Managed Queues cannot be chosen when setting up the connector with the Dynamics CRM on-premises organization, so the implementer must have access to a Microsoft Azure subscription. Once an Azure subscription has been identified to retain the Service Bus namespace and queues for the connector, the Azure Pack for PowerShell must be installed in order to create an ACS-based Service Bus namespace, as SAS-based namespaces are not currently supported. To create an ACS-based Service Bus namespace, the new -Azure SB namespace commandlet must be used with the proper parameters as seen in this slide. Once created, the default key value should be noted as it will be needed further into the configuration. A service account is required in Dynamics CRM to manage the create, update, and delete requests that are passed through the connector. For a Dynamics CRM on-premises configuration, this user must be created in Active Directory within the domain where CRM resides, or within a trusted domain that CRM is able to query. The service account must then be added as a licensed user within CRM in either the Administration section under Settings on CRM 2011 and 2013, or in the Security section under Settings on CRM 2015. The Dynamics Marketing Connector security role, Service Bus plugin, SDK message processing steps, custom fields, and other customizations are contained within a managed solution that must be installed within the CRM organization. This solution can be downloaded from the Microsoft Download Center and imported into the Destination CRM organization from the Solutions page under Settings. 2 versions of the solution are available to support customers who are using a CRM 2011 or 2013 environment, as well as customers using a CRM 2015 environment. New versions of the solution are occasionally released when updates are deployed to Microsoft Dynamics Marketing, and the latest version of the solution is required to ensure a working configuration. Once the solution is imported, the user record should be open within the Security or Administration area under Settings, depending on which CRM version is being used. Once the user record is opened, the Dynamics Marketing Connector security role should be allocated to the user. Setting the user to an access mode of non-interactive is not an option in a Dynamics CRM on-premises organization, as this option is exclusive to CRM Online. In order to prepare the service account for use with the data integration service, this account should be logged into the CRM server that will be hosting the data integration service to create a profile and validate the credentials. Once complete, the service account's credentials should be added to Windows Credential Manager by running the Command Key command through an elevated command prompt as seen in this slide. Read access to the Microsoft Azure Service Bus Issuer Certificate must also be provided for the connector service account and the account that the Microsoft Dynamics CRM asynchronous processing service is running under the context of. These two services can run under the context of the same user if desired, but the recommendation is to use separate accounts to reduce the chance that any changes to the CRM implementation will impact the connector. A PowerShell commandlet must be executed in order to configure CRM to use the designated certificate as the Microsoft Azure Service Bus Issuer Certificate. If exporting the certificate from the certificate's snap-in, the private key does not have to be exported, and the base 64 encoded X509 certificate format should be selected. The proper syntax of the Set CRM Certificate commandlet can be seen in this slide, and additional information regarding this process can be found in the Word document included with this module. A configuration file must be created as well so that the data integration service can reference the proper key values when it is provisioned. For a Dynamics CRM on-premises deployment, the customer_CRM_on-premise.config file in the Data Integration Service Installation folder can be edited with the relevant values. If the CRM connector installation package has not already been installed, it can be downloaded from the Microsoft Download Center. It is recommended to save the contents of the edited file to a new configuration file that matches the instance name to ensure that its purpose is easily identifiable. Using MDM to CRM and CRM to MDM as the queue names is also recommended for consistency, though these names can be changed if desired. Once the configuration values have been finalized and the configuration file has been saved, the data integration service can be provisioned by running the executable noted in this slide within the CRM connector service folder and providing the appropriate parameters and service account credentials. Again, if the CRM connector installation package has not already been installed, it can be downloaded from the Microsoft Download Center. As a copy of the mapping file from the Integration Options page under Settings in Dynamics Marketing is required for the next step, I want to point out that all entities that support synchronization through the connector are enabled by default, and a specific set of out-of-the-box fields as well as the custom fields added by the CRM solution are included within the mapping configuration. If an entity should be disabled from synchronization or other custom fields need to be added for synchronization, the mapping configuration should be edited by clicking the pencil icon in the mapping section of the Integration Options page. This slide shows an annotated screenshot from the mapping configuration area along with a description of each annotation. More information regarding the mapping configuration options can be found in the Word document available with this module. A service endpoint must also be created in CRM, and while this can be done through the plugin registration tool, the recommended approach is to use the Data Integration Service executable along with the parameters seen here. Please note that you will need a copy of the mapping file from the Integration Options page under Settings in Dynamics Marketing in order to execute this command. More information regarding this procedure can be found in the included Word document. With all of the necessary components in place, the implementer must now log into Microsoft Dynamics Marketing with an administrative user and navigate to the Integration Options page under Settings. The CRM endpoint section must be set to a CRM mode of on-premise to match the CRM environment that will be synchronized with, though no further configuration to the CRM endpoint is required in an on-premise configuration. From there, the gear icon in the Service Bus area should be clicked to open up the relevant configuration windows for setting up the custom Microsoft Azure queues. Again, Microsoft Managed Queues are not available for CRM on-premises configurations. When the previous configuration steps are complete, a health check can be performed to ensure that messages can be sent from Dynamics Marketing to Dynamics CRM and back again. While optional, a health check is recommended to validate the configuration before moving on to an initial synchronization. When the initial synchronization is initiated, all current records that are supported for synchronization and enabled will be mirrored between Dynamics Marketing and Dynamics CRM. The result field will periodically refresh with the total number of records that have been synchronized during the initial synchronization until the status changes to complete. At that point, the installation and configuration process is complete and the connector is fully functional.